Hello everybody and welcome to today's stream. I don't know what the fuck is going on with the right edge of this green screen. So give me one moment, we're just gonna move you out of the way. We're just gonna shove you right out of the fucking way, buddy. Hello everybody. Thank you for coming to the stream today. God damn it. I tried to be clever, and as soon as I put the stream on in the starting soon screen, I did the 3-minute ad break so that we could sit down and just get straight into the business. And now Twitch's ad manager is trying to auto-run ads anyway. I have done your bidding, Dark Captain. Let my people watch. Okay, whatever. That's fine. I am having a Dragonstorm draft tomorrow for my birthday. Please send me your blessings for good polls. Oatmeal, I wish you the very best of luck with your Tarkier Dragonstorm draft. I hope you get 18 different Ugins. Hey boss, sorry I've been so spotty lately. I've recently got a job that doesn't get out till around 5, but I'm glad to be here today. White Tiger, don't worry about that. I'm glad to have you here, period. And quite frankly, I have been a little bit spotty myself because I'm having a lot of bad migraines and nausea. So I'm having trouble streaming as much or making as much content as I want to anyway. Hey Maul, did you know that the miniature player that shows up on the top right of Twitch when there's ads running can be made into a pop-out player? And the pop-out player works perfectly fine, sound and everything. No, that's pretty cool and neat though. Hey boss, are we looking at Final Fantasy reveals anytime soon? Yeah, probably next Tuesday. And then Dale is asking, how much is it to have you rant about the latest Final Fantasy reveals? I'll be honest, it would probably be like, we're probably talking double-digit dollars per card to distract from the roast today. And that is only because Total Drama Tuesdays, so next Tuesday, those are our set day to talk about everything reveal spoiler related. And so all of the spoilers that are coming out this weekend, any new spoilers they do on like the weekly Magic stream on Tuesday, we will be talking about all of those on Tuesday. So if we wish to hijack today's deck roasting stream and delay these fine people's bath and haterade, it's going to be minimum $10 per card we want to talk about. Hyuga1234, thank you for the tier 1 sub for the 13th month in a row, my friend. Welcome back to the dog home. I appreciate that generosity very, very much. Just put the spoilered cards into the deck roasting list. That is kind of clever, and I probably would have respected that game if you had just done it, but now that it's been spoiled in chat, I will just pretend that those cards are blank to get you back. If it was a surprise, game would have recognized game. But now that you have given everybody the hot tip, I'm gonna be catty about it. Troper, thank you for the 100-bit cheer. Have you heard of the critically acclaimed MMORPG Final Fantasy XIV? With an expanded free trial, you can now play through the entirety of A Realm Reborn and the award-winning Heavensward and thrilling Stormblood expansions up to level 70 for free with no restrictions on playtime. I had not heard of that. Maybe if you share enough bits, or if you unionize with the other Final Fantasy fans, Final Fantasy can be our next variety arc after Darkest Dungeon. And Million Ants 0267, thank you for the Prime sub for the 4th month in a row. My friend, welcome back to the dog home. All right, the ad manager is still loud, so I'm going to run just a 1-minute ad break. It's telling me that pre-rolls are off, but the auto ad manager is still trying to make the ads run. So we're going to run a 60-second ad break. And then the order for today, we have Darkened Auras, we have Roar, and we have Anbrew. So if those people could sound off in the chat when they are ready, we're going to hit this ad break. Riffle Dupes, thank you for the 250-bit cheer, lending my power to the Final Fantasy Spirit Ball. Real as hell. Roar Live, thank you for gifting a tier 1 sub. A beautiful sound off indeed. Welcome to Dog Heaven, my friend. I appreciate that generosity. MWKJSR, thank you for the Twitch follow. Welcome to the doghouse, my friend. Space ad breaks on you. I legitimately do not understand how YouTube gets ads. You may never get an ad break. You may get an ad break every second of the stream. Straight up, no clue how it works. MWKJSR, thank you for that Prime sub, my friend. I appreciate those Jeffrey dollars. Welcome to the dog home. What's up, Darebrain? We're doing good. We are only 12 minutes in, and we are on the cusp of starting the first deck, which is an absolutely crazy pace for this stream. Madness. Final Fantasy's Twitch content is fun because the Final Fantasy stans will be gooning over your reactions to their favorite story beats. I'm not gonna give a fuck. I'm not gonna give a fuck about it. When can I expect the email regarding my roast? It should have been already. Have you filled out the Google form that follows the purchase on Ko-Fi? I cannot find you on the sheet to be scheduled, or do you use did you use a handle other than Darebrained on Ko-Fi? Oh my god, Revived Lich. Thank you for the 1,000 bits. Time to help with the demand for Final Fantasy XIV. That will help. And Myth, thank you for the 200-bit cheer. Black Mage Mauled coming to a Final Fantasy MMO near you. So Darebrained, there was a post-purchase message after you bought the Ko-Fi thing. Yeah, maybe this sign-up flow messed with it. So I do know we've had people run into this issue before. If you go into your order history on Ko-Fi, it should pull up the post-purchase message, and you should be able to find the link to the Google form there. If you can't find it, reach out to me either on Discord or at mauldhound@gmail.com, and I will send you the form link manually, and then we can schedule you from there. And Avery Raccoon, or a very raccoon, thank you for the Twitch follow. Welcome to the doghouse, my friend. Zoria's here with Final Fantasy set's going to be very fun for me because this is the first large-scale Universes Beyond I genuinely have zero idea about. I just see a card now and then, I'm like, huh, cat people? Neat. I thought this was about the man with the disproportionately large sword. And I think that's how people felt seeing literal, actual devil from the Bible in the Doctor Who set. Yeah, I was talking to some friends last night who were like, most of the early Final Fantasy games is just magic crystal .game. So that's what I'm prepping myself for. I'm prepping myself for crystals, swords, cat people. And user Moss01, thank you for the Twitch follow. Welcome to the doghouse, my friend. Shout out to the devil from the Bible. Thank you, Badgers. Electric Eagle 17, thank you for the Twitch follow as well. Alright, so I know Roar is here. Do I have Darkened Auras, and do I have Anbrew? I don't recall if I've seen either of you two. I know Darkened Auras, for whatever reason, their color on Twitch is like fucking impossible to pick out of chat, and so I think the only option is them donating like $1 million right now. The only other constants are the funny birds and a dude named Sid. That sounds like normal Magic the Gathering. What'd you think of Summon Primal Odin Saga, that if it hits someone on step 2, they just lose the game? I think you made that up, and I think I require $20 in my front left pocket right now if we're going to talk about Final Fantasy spoilers outside of Total Drama Tuesdays. That's what I think about that. What's up, Shrinkledink? How you doing? I didn't enjoy Final Fantasy XIV's early story because it's fairly generic, but I had friends to play with me and it made it much more bearable. IMO, you will have a much better time early shooting the shit with people you know than locking in for the story when the first expansion hits. I'm going to keep it real. I doubt any MMORPG story could actually grab me. It's just like... Even WoW, with the entire force of nostalgia that they have behind them, is just totally unable to really get me with the game story. I read a ton of the books when I was a kid, and I really liked the lore books that went along with World of Warcraft. But even if we do Final Fantasy as the next variety thing, I don't know. I feel like the story is just boilerplate fantasy, and then we all like Cloud so much that we get really heavily invested. I spent most of my first 50 hours in Final Fantasy XIV in a casino getting fake money for a flying car. I was very confused by the fact that there were flying cars. See, that seems awesome. And also, that seems like the thing I'm gonna love, and not whatever generic Magic Crystal story is going on. Whenever somebody tells me a story starts slow and then gets amazing, I always feel like that person has been crab boiled into identifying with a character, and then something very bad or very good happens to that character, and then we think the story's amazing because it elicits a very strong emotional reaction. That's my cynical take whenever somebody's like, oh, it's really slow to get started, but it's amazing later. Hey, now it's only slightly generic. Like, I think it's... Speaking of games, have you gotten into the Elder Scrolls Oblivion craze as of late? No, Terrence, I've been relatively rigid about forcing all of the variety content to be Darkest Dungeon until we are done with Darkest Dungeon, because otherwise Darkest Dungeon just becomes a game that we've turned on a few times and never completed. I only could really get into Final Fantasy if I was making up a backstory for my character on my own as I've been playing because it is kind of boring. Yeah, like I feel like anytime we're like, oh, it gets good later. It gets good later is just always like, well, the story's quite bad, but after 20 hours, I began to self-identify with Cloud or Tifa or Arlok, who I'm assuming is a named character in this game. And then Tifa, Arlok, Cloud got stabbed, and that felt like me getting stabbed. And so this story is very, very good. Also, Dale, thank you for the $10 super chat on YouTube. On second thought, we cannot allow the stream to have a good start time. Let's talk about Yuna Grand Summoner. Everybody shield your eyes. Christian, we have not covered Ukbenbach yet. Thank you, User Moss. Troper, thank you for the 100-bit cheer. I'm going to be completely real and throw money at you for this. When people say it's slow, what they mean is that the vanilla had to both be a story and explain why they had to nuke the entirety of 1.0 because it was so bad. A Realm Reborn is generic and boring, but if you let it be good, it'll be good. The game has to lay groundwork, and it's stronger before it. That makes sense. DMC, thank you for the 100 bits. People trying to sell me on Final Fantasy always sound like people selling me on drinking IPAs. It sucks at first, but if you just stick with it, eventually it starts to be enjoyable. I love those two back-to-back cheers. Okay. Yuna, Grand Summoner. A 1/5. Unreasonable ass, first of all. A 1/5 that says... Tap, add 1 mana of any color. When you next cast a creature spell this turn, that creature enters with 2 additional +1/+1 counters on it for $1 million. Show me the card every Yuna player will be playing in every single Yuna deck they make. Please, Scryfall. Please, Scryfall. Are we going to participate in the bit, Scryfall? This site sucks, bro. Scryfall tried to make me Vine boom myself, man. Pull up the card. Oh my fucking god, dude. This site sucks. Alright, I guess we're using EDHREC for card lookups because Scryfall doesn't want my goddamn... Never mind. Anyway. Wow. What a fun and kooky deck you came up with. What an incredibly fun and kooky Yuna deck you've come up with. That's so interesting, bro. Tell me about your other hobbies. Do you like IPAs? Are you big into kettlebells? What else do you like? Do you go mudding on the weekends? That's so cool, man. No, I don't own a 4x4 actually. That's crazy. Alright, whenever another permanent you control is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, if it had 1 or more counters on it, you may put that number of 1/1 counters on target creature. Somebody is going to attempt to cook with this, and it is going to end up with food poisoning. Because this translates any number of counters into 1/1 counters. So instantly some poor fool is going to go, ah, sagas are so good now. I'm going to make such a kick-ass Bant Sagas deck. Oh, chat already fell for it. I'm gonna make such a fucked up and crazy Sagas deck, dude. I think here's what disappoints me about this card. I think there are the idea of extracting value from non +1/+1 counters to convert into a board state with +1/+1 counters is interesting. I think there's like something weird and kooky you could do here. What I think is going to happen is this is going to be another case of you're going to be moving mountains for the bit, and we're just going to be watching the mountains and not the bit. So like when I see, oh, I'm going to do all of this silly fucked up stuff with saga creatures, I feel like what's going to happen is everyone's going to put hardened scales in the deck, or everyone's going to put like bristly bill. Everyone's going to put some other type of +1/+1 counter support into this deck, and anything even approaching a unique flavor will be immediately lost because so much of the deck will be EDHREC.11 counter. All right, all of our roasties are here. So once I'm done yelling about Yuna, we will move into the deck roasting. So it's not broken for sure. If anything, cumulative upkeeps was my first thought because I'm a sicko. I like that more. Double dipping modular. Yeah. Maybe Yuna's the one who saves modular. Mystic Remora. If you can sack Dark Depths, you get 20 +1/+1 counters. Yeah, if you sack Dark Depths, you get, what, a 40/40 Merit Lage? Slight Coyote, thank you for the 100-bit cheer. Welcome to the doghouse, my friend. Please, boss, I need you to look at Simic Ascendancy. Slight Coyote, I am not going to give myself a migraine over 100 bits. I know what Simic Ascendancy does, and I know it's one of the 25 cards every Yuna player is always playing. If I tap Yuna, untap her, then tap her again, does my next creature get 4 counters, or do I have separate creatures? So, Smokies, to answer that, I have not watched this short yet. I saw that my friend Veggie Wagon posted a short where the title was The Unabomber, which is a hilarious pun, and I'm mad that he stole it, and I'm going to assume that it means you can infinite counter Spirit Bomb, and that is the bit of his video. Yeah, so I feel like every... I will hold my final opinion until it actually gets released and I actually see people playing with it. But I feel like the two paths these decks are going to go, both of which disappoint me, are going to be, one, this is just yet another Bant infinite combo that wins with a creature. Like you're similar to non-deterministic Tulane, or doing like Zexara Freed for the Real, where it's just like, oh, okay, I Beyblade it a million times, and then I just win the game, which is terminally boring. Or we do something with the Saga creatures, but then because it's in Bant, I'm imagining like we do all of the typical culprits for +1/+1 counter support and +1/+1 counter based draw, and you end up with like It's 50 of the same cards we see in every Bant 1/1 counters deck ever, and then like 10 Saga creatures. Like, how do I go to... Like, hey, guess what? Well, okay, Mistrise Village is an obvious answer. But it's like, hey, guess what? Bet we're going to see that guy. 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 And you do that 50 fucking times. But Mauled, think about Twitching Doll and how good it can be here. Ignore all that combo stuff. See, that's what I want to think about. I would greatly prefer to think about, oh my god, this makes Twitching Doll one of the best like 2-mana dorks ever. Holy shit. That would be so incredible. And I feel like all of the dope stuff that we could see from Twitching Doll is going to be lost under the crushing weight of Fathom Mage's ass as it draws 15 fucking cards every game. And that is what disappoints me, is because it's Bant 1/1 counters, there's so much generic good stuff support that I think everything that makes the deck builder feel clever is totally indistinguishable under the mountain of Kraft mac and cheese that is every +1/+1 counter good stuff thing. And it's also difficult because that begins like, hey, do you think a Yuna player might include this card? You know, it would be insane if a Yuna player included this card. You know, it would be truly crazy if a Yuna player played Evolution Witness to recur a Saga creature. Like, I would probably be a lot more relaxed about it if Bant was my pet color, but legitimately all it is this is every +1/+1 counter deck you've ever seen, but now you get your 15 pet cards are Saga creatures instead of Hydras. And to me, that just doesn't spark incredible joy, because the archetype is too solved to be interesting. Like, you can either do it good or you can do it bad, but I've never seen somebody do it but weird. My pet cards are golems, totally different. So true, Matthew, my fault. Is the message of I want improvements, but this deck is perfect and I'm allowing you the chance to witness it peasant too confusing? General point is if you see anything you can think of, you'd change without really having anything particular in mind. That is not too confusing. That is what basically everybody who said the deck is perfect and I am allowing you the chance to witness it peasant has meant. What I want out of that question is, are you open to me contesting whether this is a good bid or not? Because there are some people who will submit a deck for roasting and they will send in something that they appear to think is legitimately like a good time for the table, and I have to disabuse them of that false notion. And sometimes those roasts can get very, very bogged down in just the back and forth of me going like, hey, man or woman or creature, this gimmick that you are saying to me in all caps is very funny is truly not funny. I would urge you to reconsider why you think this is funny. And some people are open to that, and some people just want me to call them stinky. Some people are like, I know this is not funny. I play this deck once a month when I'm in a bad mood. I'm not changing. I want to be called a dirty little boy. And so the thing about the deck is perfect and I'm allowing you the chance to witness it is more like, do you think the vision of the deck is good? Or do you think or are you open to the vision of the deck changing? Because there's a bunch of one-off improvements I can give without altering the goal of the deck. And then, I mean, it is a deck roast. True, Platypus, but there is a core difference between you have a bad idea and I just go, that's a bad idea, naughty boy, naughty. Or if I sit with you for like 20 minutes to work through like, hey, this gridlock that you're imposing on your table is legitimately like, it's not increasing fun for you, it's not increasing fun for them. What could we do instead that does increase fun for everybody? So that is the core of that question. This might come up again later. Oh, God. Maud, would you be down to roasting the list of decks a person has instead of a singular deck list? That way you can judge them as a whole person and not by a singular deck. No. Is it a look at their red flags or I can fix them situation, basically? Yeah, because there's some situations where I can fix you and the person wants to be fixed. There are also many situations where I can fix you and the person does not want to be fixed. And then it's just like us saying the same thing back and forth for 20 minutes. Saxy, thank you for coming by the stream, my friend. We got a random smasher pass from Manabites, and then it is time for Darkened Auras to get roasted. All right, Scryfall, are we gonna make stuff happen? I'm not doing the doll, Scryfall. I don't care how long you take. You can do it. I believe in you. You're a good little search engine. God, fucking this site. No, Darebrand, we pulled that up to talk about Yuna. Hell no, dude. Hell no. I hate short people. Fuck that. That flavor text is great, though. How does one submit for roasting, or is it a paid thing? So Xanath, there's 3 ways. There is a free roast stream at the beginning of every month. That is a raffle on Twitch. The second way is to purchase a commission through Ko-Fi. These go on sale at the beginning of each month as well. The third way is to pay $500, and I will do it on the spot. Maldhound, thoughts on using the restriction for cards you own through limited and other miscellaneous purchases for commander decks? Broadly, I hate it. The only context in which I think that is workable is if you and your entire pod are committed to doing it together to more deeply explore the flavor of a set. In terms of doing it as a deck building challenge or a way to make your deck interesting, I think that is capitalism being so deep inside your brain that you're trying to use your own financial pursuits as a replacement for a personality. Don't do it. Like, if you want something to convince you to not put generically good cards in, come up with an idea for what the deck does, a gimmick for what the deck does, that requires you to use weird stuff and then make a weird deck. But if you're like, oh my god, I don't want my deck to be all samey, the only way I could ever do anything interesting is if I allowed myself to be crushed under the boot of capitalism and only let myself put cards in the deck if God had slid one into a fucking booster pack like Willy fucking Wonka. It disgusts me. I think that it's... But again, if you're like, oh, my play group really likes the flavor of Tarkir, we're going to do it with Tarkir so that we can keep everything, keep the vibe of Tarkir as much as possible, that's fine. Then I don't like it and would not participate in it myself, but I do not become incendiary about it at that point. Sudsball, I've thought about it and then I don't do it because it's my goddamn show. But yeah, anytime somebody tells me I am going to make my deck interesting by limiting myself to only building with my collection, I call them a liar and I tell them to play the cards they want to play and just learn impulse control. That's it. What's happening, Troper? I'm sorry, I don't mean to miss you. Would you have Mauled roast your deck portfolio? God, can you imagine having Mauled roast enough of your decks to build up a psychological profile of you, your playgroup, and your major flaws? What kind of woman would you have to be to submit that many decks that often? Absolute madness. Truly, Troper. Who could imagine Mauled having a little fucking notebook where I kept track of your mental progress? What if the cards I want to play are good cards and not jank? Then just play good cards and don't pretend your deck is interesting. I think that's one of... God, I always say that, like, XYZ is the worst brain sickness that Commander players have. But a sickness I really think we should release ourselves from is at some point we all started believing that just because interesting decks were the best, that every deck had to pretend to be interesting. Like, my Henzi deck is one of my favorite decks in the world. It is not interesting. It plays cards at the power level I want and has stuff in it I think is cute, and I say funny zingers while I play it. That is the extent of that Henzi deck being interesting. Like, it's... And a lot of people fall for the internal trick of being like, I think the guy, girl, or creature on this card looks cool, therefore, deck is interesting, and you should all be interested in it. Maddie, I haven't played Value Vintage, don't know what it is. Oh, hell yeah, Troper. I hope that Bolas list works better for you. But yeah, like, that Bolas list was a very good, like... I don't think it's interesting in terms of complexity, but I think that is, like, a fun theme you're playing into. That's a good, cohesive story that was crafted. I also think that, like, it's okay to play good generic cards sometimes. Yes, it is. That's why... No. No! So this whole conversation we're having is why the peak of the pyramid is a midpoint between having all generically good cards and having all YouTube short jank cards. Like, I legitimately think if you aren't playing any good cards in your deck, it's probably not interesting. If every single card in your deck is jank that only does something if it is combined with 3 to 4 other cards in a specific order. This is probably PowerPoint night behavior. Like this is just a speech you want to give and not an actual gameplay experience. And then if everything's generic, it's boring. It can still be a perfectly fine deck. It can still be a totally playable deck, and then you just have to be fun to play with as a person. And then it doesn't matter that your deck is boring. I bought the Sultai Precon as my first proper deck. Upgrading it, focusing on landfall and graveyard / mill value. Good idea or nah? Perfectly good idea, Saxy. That deck honks by itself, but upgrading it should be very easy because the lore is deep on what Sultai can do. DMC, thank you for the 100 biddies. Good generic cards like Confessor are a great way to make your decks fun and interesting. Shut the fuck up about the Confessor. And Lord Xavier, thank you for the 100 bits. Hey Mauled, I was planning on doing a Zimone Mystery Unraveler for my roast, but I'm planning on switching that to Yuna. That cool. That's totally fine, my friend. Thank you for letting me know in advance. I struggle personally to make decks that aren't very aggressively straightforward. I don't explore decks beyond an initial theme. That's also fine, frankly. Like the only reason I have to metaphorically clamp a car battery to my nipples and crank the electricity to feel something when it comes to a commander deck being interesting is because I spend so much time talking about commanders and talking about the game that there is no joy left for me in the novelty of this game. Like seeing a Boros deck work doesn't, like, it just doesn't it doesn't create any like deep satisfaction in me. I'm totally fine to play a game again. I'm not like, oh my god, this is too boring to play against. But when you're just like, hey, look, it's a Sultai deck that functions. I'm too jaded from the Precon wars, brother. You gotta take that bullshit somewhere else. So I'm never gonna stop anybody from building a straightforward deck. If you come on these roasts, then yes, I'm going to try to push you to the next level. But if you play very casually, you don't play often, you don't know every single archetype in the game, you don't know like the 10 best cards for all of those archetypes, there is still a ton of novelty left for you to discover in this game. For me, there's just no novelty in it for me. Planewalker, thank you for the $5 super chat. Can't stick around, got a hornet's nest to remove, but I'll rewatch later. Love your MTG and especially your Darkest Dungeon streams. Thank you, Planewalker. I appreciate that. Hey, can you define Stinky Troper Jail for the class? Absolutely not. You know what you did. Anyway, like I was saying, we're getting straight into Darkened Aura's commander deck roast. This is a spooky deck. Hey, Mauled. First time cashing one of these in. This is my hopefully spooky Weta deck that's become my pet deck for the past while and the first one that's dragged me into Magic. I'm down for any roasting advice, additions, etc. to make my very well-trained creatures more efficiently beat the shit out of each other to then take out their anger at having the shit beat out of them on my opponents. It functions like a toolbox where I need to figure out the optimal way to distribute my fight and damage triggers each turn, and I adore needing to figure out each turn accordingly. It is certainly an interesting decision to min-max self-harm, but let's see what you did with it. So we have a 3 mana 1/5. Again, outrageously large ass. So a haste, 3 mana and tap. Target creature you control fights another target creature, but it only costs 1 mana if it's both creatures you control, and then it doubles damage-based triggers. So this... that shit sounds like it works. Psychic Muffin, thank you for the 5 Canadian dollars. I love doing stupid shit in Magic and watching it work. I built my second ever homebrew deck, a Usury deck, based on your recommendation, and it popped off last night. Congratulations, my friend, and thank you for joining Dog Heaven. Okay, so Weta is our... who's that, like, dog whisperer guy that always went like... tss, tss, and just kind of zapped the dogs a little bit? I feel like that's Weta. Cesar, yeah, Cesar Milan. So we have our angry critters. These are our 18 enrage triggers. So we can continue fighting. We can put 1/1 counters on everything. We can explode somebody. Make 1/1s, but this this motherfucker is a 1/1. So we probably need a way to buff him. We can untap a permanent. Ooh. God. Both with the trigger doubling and this being a tab trigger, that actually gets kind of fucked up. Fiend Lash. Whenever something is dealt damage, it deals damage equal to its power. Okay. 2 to target a... Alright. That's fine. That's pretty fine. Hornet Nest, when dealt damage, make that many 1/1s with flying and death touch. Also a 0/2. Hungering Hydra, dealt damage, get counters. Okay, we're beginning to get good ones. On damage, deal 5 damage to target creature an opponent controls. Ranging Raptor. Okay, we do have some of the playable ones. I like that. On damage, make a 3/3. On damage, put counters on it. On damage, everybody sacrifices something. On damage, put a counter on it. Ooh. Okay, and then Trapjaw Tyrant, definitely workable. What's Rondus do? Make a 5/4. On damage, sacrifice it. Oh. So Dark, you could have told me that the toolbox was a Bob the Builder children's playset. You could have told me that the power drill was made out of shitty plastic and melts above 90-degree weather. So, I don't hate it. We have picked a lot of enrages that are really, really bad. For 12, I know you don't own this in paper. For $1,200. What an incredibly low return on investment we're getting. So the first thing I want to see, or the first thing I'm going to be looking for, is stuff like this. We have a number of creatures that could actually cook if we could hit them for more than 1 damage. Like Hornet Nest, if Hornet Nest would not die to fighting anybody but Weta 1 time, we could do something. We could do something with that. But right now the problem is, like, even though it's a fight deck, the best thing we could do internally is have Apex Altasaur kick Hornet Nest across the state, or use Hornet Nest to chump block something really big. But this is like, once I have both out on turn 4, I can make 2 Death Touch 1/1s a turn. That is not nothing, but that is not beating the pre-con allegations. And so what I would love to see is something that would make more stuff that will make Hornet Nest, honestly, God, Frilled Death Spitter too. If you want this guy's got to get hit like 20. You have to speed bag this motherfucker for me to forgive 2 damage to target opponent. Same goes for like Broodhatch Nantuko. Like, this seems extremely worthless unless Apex Altasaur is kicking it across the state, or we have somehow given it a pretty sizable power toughness boost. So things that will hold that together is like Bellowing Aegisaur, Tribute to the World Tree at least a little bit. I'm sure your dumbass has Great Henge in this deck. Yep. There it is. There it is. All right. 38 lands is reasonable. The deck contains red. The deck contains white. The game has to end somehow. Beautiful. What I would love is if we could make this deck good enough that you didn't have to rely on Polyraptor. I feel like Polyraptor is here as your pinch hitter after all of these guys fail dramatically. Like, there's we don't need every card in your commander deck to be exactly as valuable as every other card in your commander deck. But the shitty 1/1 that can get touched one time versus the dinosaur that goes infinite if you sneeze on him is... Do I need to do the stance for you, Dark? Do I need to do the stance? Apex Altasaur does not combo with the token creation pieces. You cannot target your own permanents. So, Mango, what I want you to do is I want you to have Apex Altasaur on the screen. I want you slowly zooming in on the part that says 1010. And then I want Waita's card to come in from the right. And I want it to zoom in on the text that says, for 2 and a green and tap, target creature you control fights another target creature. And then I want you to bring one of these 1/1s in from below, and then once it touches the 10-10 stat line on Apex Altasaur, I want it to like get flicked off the screen and then Vine Boom Dog Sauce. So I'm not saying we have to cut Polyraptor. I do think if this is... We have some incredibly, incredibly bad things, and we have some incredibly, incredibly good things. And I tend to not like when the variance is that large. So other things, we have Violence Encouragement, 19. Arc Bond. Okay, I believe in this. This is cute at least. We have Blazing Sun Steel. When it's dealt damage, deals damage to any target. Boros Charm for indestructibility. Fight spells. Caltrops is quite clever of you. Whenever Donna or a creature it's paired with is dealt damage, deals that much damage to target opponent. Okay. We have a creature tutor. And when dinosaurs ETB, we can ping everything for 1 and just fucking kill this dumbass Broodhatch Nantuko. Love it. Fiery Confluence is great. Maneuver's fine. Rage Beast. Yes, fighting is very good for you. Marauding Raptors is a classic. Prey Upon is totally reasonable. Same goes for Pyrrhemia. Yeah, ETB, deal 1 damage to everything. I like Rite of Passage. This is another thing that will be like a savior of your little shitty triggers. I like Temple Altasaur. Then we have Wrathful Raptors as well. Okay. And then because chat was talking about it, I actually like Vigor because and this was actually something I suggested to Dark when they mentioned to me that they had that they were working on a fight deck, because this effectively it says none of my stuff has enrage triggers anymore. Now my stuff says enrage, prevent that damage and put that many 1/1 counters on me, which is a better enrage trigger than basically everything else in this fuck ass deck. It does technically non-bow, but we're using normally the term non-bow refers to like good stuff is no longer happening, and Vigor basically says, okay, now my board's going to be able to swing. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. We're now just going to turn, like Apex Altasaur is now a machine that puts 10 +1/+1 counters on all my motherfuckers. I do think it is worth mentioning you have a deterministic draw in the deck. Which is questionable behavior. So, Dark, if you had not resolved these two yet, you have Marauding Raptor and you have Polyraptor. And notably, that only ends the game because the game must end as a draw because this is an infinite loop that you do not have an outlet for. Lich, I appreciate your recommendations. We're not at the point of recommending new cards yet. Right now, we're just addressing the situation that is in front of us. We most certainly do not need that Impact Tremors. Which is, it is certainly an interesting strategy to go, yes, this is my Pokemon trainer deck where you watch my Pokemon fight until one Pokemon begins giving birth endlessly. Drawing the game with those two Raptors is fucking hilarious. Swag Lizard Queen, I would be very interested in learning what you find funny, because I have drawn the game like this, and we immediately cut that from the deck. Though with Wrathful Raptors on the board, I did the math. The opponents do die before Wrathful Raptors dies. Well, right, that's Wrathful Raptors becomes your outlet. But these two, that is something where if we want the deck to both have a 2-card infinite where there are any number of outlets, if you want to keep that infinite in the deck, then I regret to tell you that you actually do need to keep that thing on you. I think it can be very unfulfilling, or at least it's not very cohesive to have, I have this 2-card deterministic draw, and I have a 3-card, I immediately win the game. On top of, this is my man Frilled Death Spitter, he fucking sucks. I'm okay with either of those directions, but I'm generally not okay with, like, I'll go to the playtest, and here's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna swap. Why is this not fucking working? There we go. I'm gonna swap Donna Noble for Frilled Death Spitter. Just 1-to-1. Instead of this creature, we get this other creature. And God gives you Soul Ring. We play our Extremely Real Taiga. We play our 3/2. Colorless doesn't matter for this, so we can't activate the fight ability anyway. Alright, so we have Needletooth and we have Frilled Death Spitter. We can tap her for a green. These two bounce. we get 4 damage out of Frilled Death Spitter. I'm going to pick Day and Night to represent this because it's the token that nobody likes. Turn 5, I repeat. Dealt 8 damage. Now we have something cooking. If we put Fiend Lash onto this... Never mind, because then it would kill Weta. Never fucking mind. We don't do that because it would kill Weta immediately. Oh, no, this is how we drive the point home. We equip this to Needletooth Raptor. It's now a 4/2. Weta fights Needletooth Raptor. In 1 turn, Needletooth Raptor will double trigger Fiend Lash, and we will also deal 8 damage directly to somebody's face, and we will get Needletooth Raptor's enrage trigger twice and deal 5 damage to 2 different creatures. So an elf is dead and an Is-It combo factory worker is dead. So in one fell swoop, this equipment is just doing this guy's job immeasurably better. Maybe this would start to get hot if we could really double dip on it, or if we piled multiple like damage doublers on top of each other. But then we get into the same issue that prevented us from equipping Fiend Lash to this guy, which is if we begin doubling damage as a whole, our fight abilities really quickly just start killing our own board. And so effectively the first thing this deck wants to do every game is stop using Frilled Death Spitter as quickly as possible. And that is where we have to make the first decision about power intention. Is this man cute enough that you want the entire deck to suck like Frilled Death Spitter does? Because then he can be the hero. If the entire deck is this bad, Frilled Death Spitter gets to be the hero and gets to be very, very cute. If we have 3-card Polyraptor me win game, this man probably has to go to a dinosaur farm upstate. Because then we can Fiery Confluence, we can pass around a little bit of damage. But for the most part, now we're just on Weta hits Needletooth. Needletooth spreads 8 damage. And we don't hit anything else because all of our engines are greedy card draw engines. God, this child is so ugly that it does deserve to be in the fighting pits. I'm like, what the fuck is this guy? Listen, talk to me about the baby. Are you okay with an extremely late term raptor abortion? Because these are the dinosaurs that are going to begin making us run afoul of the layers of Winmore Hell. Let me go try to find that. Let me go try to find that PowerPoint. No, where are the layers of Winmore Hell? Raptor Hatchling is mostly because 1, enrage trigger. I don't have much of an early game, so the ability to get something on turn 2 that can get me 2 3/3s is at least half decent value. My question is, that is not nothing. 2 3/3s is not nothing. If I'm trying to paint a cohesive picture of how intimidating my enrage board state is, why is this piece not setting up for the really good enrage triggers. Because I think the defense of, oh, well, it's 2 mana and it says enrage, that's operating on the assumption that when we play Weta, we have to have an enrage trigger we can immediately use, or like that there's a contractual obligation to create this many enrage triggers before X turn, which we can do, again, if we want the deck to be like bad, silly, Mise enrage. But in terms of, okay, I want to establish board presence, I want to establish something that is going to help me for the rest of the game, we're probably better off either having more ramp, because all of our really good enrage triggers cost quite a lot of money. Like the enrage triggers that we are playing around, or the cards that we are playing around, the short list is Apex Altasaur, Bellowing Aegisaur, Brash Taunter, skipped this man on purpose, Silverclad Ferocidons, Vrondis-ish, Stuffy Doll, Scene. Those are like the 6 guys that are really going to make the game come together for us. And so when I think about like, oh, what do we want to do on turn 1 and turn 2, it does not seem that compelling to try to establish early enrage. It seems more compelling to establish either like to either establish more card advantage to get to the good enrage dinosaurs, to establish something that is a good creature that doesn't necessarily say enrage on it, but is very useful for what we want to do. This is almost certainly going to be the wrong option just off cost alone, but I'm legitimately surprised I do not see I don't see Mommy No Die in here. Like Avacyn Angel of Hope makes now Broodhatch Nantuko straight up playable. Straight up playable. Now obviously there is not a 2 mana version of Avacyn Angel of Hope, but we should not be overly concerned with the idea that, oh, I'm an enrage deck, I must say the word enrage as quickly as possible or they're gonna think I'm a liar. If I don't say the word enrage quickly enough, they're gonna think I'm a liar. Which is, I think, how most of your like 3 mana and below enrage creatures are currently getting in. Yeah, where's this? Well, is dealt damage deals that much? He is at minimum better than Frilled Deathspitter. Minimum better than Frilled Deathspitter. And Tario, thank you for the 125-bit cheer. Can I suggest dropping an asteroid on your dinos with Star of Extinction? We are going to get there. You can also do Screaming Nemesis to turn off life gain, which can be a relatively useful thing in your toolbox. Like if we want this to be a toolboxy deck, what we want is a lot of options with how we deal with things. Frilled Deathspitter is really straightforward in what it can do. Frilled Deathspitter is not going to push the game forward that quickly. Its only real advantage is that because it's pushing the game forward on one opponent, you can do a little bit of politicking around who am I kicking in the face at any given point. But when it's like turn 6 and there is a questionable situation, there's not like any math for a tricky enrage turn. The first step in that flowchart is ignore Frilled Deathspitter. The second step in that flowchart is ignore Raptor Hatchling. The third step in that flowchart is probably ignore Hornet Nest. And so there's a lot of, and there's some situations where it might not be with Hornet Nest, which is why I've not demanded its death yet. But Boros Reckoner allows you to be much more toolboxy with how you spread around the damage. Does somebody else have a good utility creature we need to deal with? Like, fuck up the Esper Sentinel. If they don't, then you still get to deal it to face. Also, Boros Reckoner, any fucking target, fight Boros Reckoner, you get 2 damage pings, trigger your other enraged creatures twice with the Boros Reckoner damage. This is how we get to Home Depot. Because you do, okay, way to fight Boros Reckoner. Boros Reckoner, put 2 triggers on the stack to deal 1 damage. You target your own things twice. Each of those triggers puts 2 more enraged triggers on the stack. So this is your fucking doubling season, practically. Screaming Nemesis will also be that option for you, and it allows you to shut off life gain. DMC, thank you for the 100-bit cheer. Hear me out. We need Selfless Spirit, Unbreakable Formation, and maybe even Equal Treatment. And Ioka, thank you for the 1 month at tier 1, my friend. Welcome to the dog home. Dark, I'm so glad you asked. It can punch itself. If you want, do you know what a much more satisfying, powerful, and unexpected infinite there is than doing the fucking Polyraptor infinite? You play Selfless Spirit, you sacrifice Selfless Spirit to make your board indestructible, you fight with Boros Reckoner, you have now put infinite damage triggers on the stack, and everybody fucking dies. That may be legitimately too strong for what you're going for, because with the right hand, that's like turn 4, you won the game. So if you don't want to do that, I would leave out things like Selfless Spirit. But those are the types of naughty behaviors you can get up to. Wait, how does that go infinite? So Jummybug, in a world where Boros Reckoner is indestructible, Weta fights him once. This puts 2 triggers for 1 damage onto the stack. Boros Reckoner targets himself. Taking 1 damage once puts 2 additional triggers for 1 damage onto the stack. You have now 3 total triggers. You resolve one of them, 2 more triggers go onto the stack. If Boros Reckoner is not infinite, this stops the moment that you kill Boros Reckoner. But if Boros Reckoner is indestructible, you just keep shooting him. You just keep shooting him until you have 120 damage saved up, and then the table dies. So this can be either like very powerful and can feel kind of unfair if you are comboing it. If you are comboing it with something like Selfless Spirit, then this can begin to feel pretty unfair, because then the ideal game plan becomes turn 2 I play Selfless Spirit, turn 3 I play Weta, turn 4 I play Boros Reckoner, I have them fight. After sacrificing Selfless Spirit, I win on the spot. What is more satisfying is if you let me count to 8 mana, then the game has to end. So I think this is again the spookier version of what the Boros Reckoner combo would be. Also works with Screaming Nemesis. Oh no, does not work with Screaming Nemesis. Screaming Nemesis says any other. We do not want this. This is going to fuck up our combat math for no reason. Okay, so here are the levels of this particular combo I'm currently trying to sell to you. If you are going to feel bad going infinite, Screaming Nemesis is at minimum a direct upgrade to something like Frilled Death Spitter, because Screaming Nemesis is still going to act as a toolbox. It will not hit itself and go infinite, but you can use it to fight Weta and then get 2 damage triggers onto your other enrage stuff, and you can use that to double dip with a ton of triggers. If you are comfortable with going infinite, then you also include Boros Reckoner, and then with Boros Reckoner, as soon as you are able to make anything on your board, as soon as you are able to make him indestructible, whole table explodes. I'd rather avoid infinites where reasonable. You have activated my trap card. Cut this motherfucker. For $5, you no longer have Polyraptor in the deck. And in that case, I would recommend cutting Frilled Death Spitter for Screaming Nemesis, which will avoid the infinites, but will allow you to instead do a lot of toolboxy turns where you get to use Screaming Nemesis to trigger Weta. Now, it is also possible to include these as toolbox inclusions if we then cut every way to make our board indestructible. I am of the opinion that we're better off making our board indestructible in some cases, and so for that reason, we're gonna leave out the any target ones like Ill-Tempered Loner. War Elemental. Why is... It actually must just be the Final Fantasy hype. 3 mana. When it comes into play, sacrifice it unless an opponent was dealt damage this turn. Whenever damage is dealt to an opponent, put that many counters on War Elemental. No, this is Win More Hell and also Pip Hell. Strike 1. How do you feel about Foe Razor Regent? ETB, you can have it fight something. Whenever a creature you control fights, put counters on it at the beginning of the next end step. This may be appropriate in the world where we kill Polyraptor. We are going to be dragging you closer to silly if we include things like Foe Razor Regent. But if we're uncomfortable with infinites, that is better than Polyraptor. But this is quite slow. It's not an imposing board presence. It can at least maybe function as soft removal. But I think if this is what we wanted to do, the deck should be retooled towards okay, every enrage effect under 4 mana that is not quite good is getting replaced by ramp and card draw. And we are just it's Weta building a massive arena, and then we're dumping the big enragers in later. And that is a very acceptable way to play silly or even spooky if the stuff is good enough. Okay. Thank you, Scryfall. Let's look at Stalwart Pathlighter. I think at the beginning of combat, if you control 3 or more creatures with different powers, creatures gain indestructible. Yeah, this could be usable. I guess I fell into the fallacy that when I get Weta onto the board, I wanted to have something for her to punch. Yeah, I mean, that's not always a fallacy. There are some decks where that is appropriate. It's really just because of how good Enrage can be, the way it is priced, if you have something for Weta to do the moment she gets on board, it is by necessity going to be bad. And if it's by necessity going to be bad, that then means if we want the deck to be cohesive, the entire deck has to be bad. If we go... the way you could manage this as a pilot is you could frame it as like a warm-up round. But I want to very heavily impress upon you, that is you being duplicitous. That is you attempting to sell in the close-up a bad deck idea. I think that is the wrong overall thing to do for your own enjoyment. I think instead it should be Weta establishes the arena, Weta imports the dinosaurs, Weta fights the dinosaurs. Because the latter of it feels whack to me. The latter of it feels like or some of them seem like they could matter so much, and some of them seem like they matter so little that it's like watching a baby try to walk and fail. The first time it's kind of cute. The 30th time you start to feel kind of bad. And that's how I feel about Frilled Death Spitter. It's like a baby that has been failing to walk for a clear half an hour. Because we play him, great, we have something for Weta to fight. We are abandoning this man instantly. We are leaving him for dead. The moment we can draw Cacophodon, or like the moment we could draw Siegehorn Ceratops, right? This motherfucker is hot. So it's not impossible that you could have something early that Weta would want to fight. It's just that they're going to be very, very limited. And we have no shortage of valuable setup pieces that we could play. Instead of playing these guys that we are scared of hitting because they will be snapped in half instantly. Bro, my roommates are having a birthday here and they just pulled out a glass cock shot glass. That sounds fucking awesome. Happy birthday to them. A YouTube commenter has been begging on hands and knees for Toralf for a moment. Immediately no. We do not want to be dealing excess. We want to be dealing under excess. Oh, Nayith, not Naylith. Yeah, this seems like you could replace literally anything in the deck with it and you would end up happy. So right now, our card draw section, we have enough card draw. Oh, never mind, we have Nayeth. Never mind. You're banned, Helios, you fucking liar. You fuck-ass liar, bitch. Trying to accuse Dark of not having already included the card. You piece of shit. You absolute motherfucker. Frontline Medic. So Frontline Medic... Helios, come on, we're just joshing. Frontline Medic crosses another sort of thematic boundary of Dark. Do you want this to be I'm playing with army men in the corner, by the way, you died? Or do you want this to be I'm going to crash out and extract value on top of crashing out? Because there's a lot of stuff Naya can do that is very combat focused, and you can just be like, oh, well, I'm going to get all of my enrage triggers from you having to block my guys. And that's stuff where frontline medic is going to be a lot more useful. It doesn't look like we are super happy with doing that because like our board doesn't get wide enough, and frontline medic becomes a case where I then become more of an apologist for for this guy, because then it's like, okay, getting multiple creatures on board early is very important for us because we want to go pseudo wide, and then we want to make things indestructible to then fight them. Stonehoof Chieftain. This legitimately is probably better Avacyn for us. Or more on-brand Avacyn for us. If we want big things that are going to potentially help us end the game, making our enraged creatures able to swing and making our enraged creatures not care about taking damage anymore is very, very appropriate. So what else is going here? Another thing that I think would be useful to you I believe Blazing Sunsteel can be another replacement for one of these deal damage to any target creatures. We have this effect on a body already. I don't see Ryle, and Ryle is exactly what I'm thinking of. Ryle is going to replace itself, double trigger, I believe, any of our, right? This is off damage, not just off of... Yeah, if a creature being dealt damage causes it. So Ryle is just immediately, things trigger twice, I get to draw a card. Depending on how good the thing on board is, it gets better and better and better. There's also a lot of stuff like Earthquake. This will advance the game state at least a little bit because it's going to hit players. But for the most part, this says 2 damage, or for 2 mana, everything on my board triggers twice. Which I quite like when compared to things like Raging Swordtooth. Like Raging Swordtooth is a 5/5 that we are mostly playing to get the exact same mileage as we would out of a 2-mana Earthquake. It's Uvenwald Tracker. This again seems very fight-pilled. It seems like you're watching slightly too much MMA. Perhaps you do expect for Weta to just get killed on sight, which I think is probably incorrect, or should probably lean us towards setting up a little bit slower or setting up more ramp focused. The hose should not be scared of a turn 3 Weta. What's Protean Hydra doing? ETB with X. Immediately no. That'll be strike 2 for chat suggestions. What? Aether Flash could become playable if we committed to having better enrage triggers. And the defense being, I've had Ulvenwald just giving me access to more fights a turn since Weta only taps once a turn extra procs. I think that is the problem there. The fact that we are attempting to, or the fact that you've attempted to improve the deck by increasing the number of fights per round instead of making the fights feel better is the problem. I think a deck like this, you want to build a deck where you are perfectly happy to tap Weta and pass. No, you only get one dark, which is frustrating. And that is part of why I was asking about if you wanted to crash out with combat damage or just take sort of these like solitary pseudo combo enrage turns, because if you do, you know, you could do like board buffs, extra combats, and then you get a bunch of enrage triggers just off of forcing people to block multiple times in a row. Like, you know who's a motherfucker for an enrage deck? Ansrag and Frontline Medic. Ansrag plus any of the shit that is like creatures you control are indestructible. You're getting like 80 fucking enrage triggers out of that turn. But it is a very different setup process than, you know, I'm going to put one Lego man here, I'm going to put my other Lego man there, and I'm going to flick them at each other. Archangel Avacyn. This is not unreasonable. It again falls into the like, a lot of our stuff doesn't survive a clean 3. But if we got to a world where our stuff survived a clean 3, then it's quite valuable. Eric, Screaming Nemesis is not in here yet. But being able to flash in... but God, flashing in indestructibility for 5 mana, that's an awful lot to hold up. My bathroom door fell off right when Mauld mentioned Earthquake. I thought he had summoned one to my house. Tremendous. Okay. I'm now coming to my final opinion. Dark, at present moment, I charge you with attempting to do as little with every enrage trigger as possible, such that you can take a game in which you make as many enrage triggers as possible, instead of doing your duty as an upstanding citizen and making any of your enrage triggers move the game forward. I don't need you to plead innocent or guilty because I know you're guilty. But if you would like to persist in that behavior, I am going to require you to downgrade the deck to silly. Spooky is the region in which we are progressing towards a definite end state. The things we are playing deterministically do stuff. That is where we would have the home of, yes, having the Polyraptor Infinite. We would be considering involving additional tutors. I believe there is a... what's that one fucking cook? He's a Naya tiefling. Rocco. It's where we would begin replacing some of these bad creatures with literally just Rocco Cabaretti Caterer to get the correct enraged creature out of the deck if we had access to a ton of mana. It's where we would begin considering like Finale of Devastation. There's a lot of other changes I would want to make to have the rest of the deck support a spooky top end, or it can be silly and the deck can be all about Frilled Deathspitter triggering as many times as possible. Okay, more aggressive triggers, better turns to win the game, no infinites. I am quite happy with going in that direction. So, stuff I'm going to say probably too bad. Too bad in that world. Broodhatch Nantuko. Frilled Death Spitter. Raptor Hatchling. Vrondis Rage of Ancients. God, I'm gonna go back on this guy for now, but Soul of the Harvest. Up the beanstalk, you little liar. Blazing Sunsteel. Donna Noble. Raging Swordtooth. And Ulvenwald Tracker. Why cut Blazing Sunsteel? Because I believe you are just better off replacing it with something like Screaming Nemesis. A thing that is... For Donna Noble, it's different. It's stuff that just says target opponent. Not good enough. Blazing Sunsteel is 6 mana to do the job of just having Screaming Nemesis in the first place. The logic for most of my cuts are if thing is not good by itself, or if thing is insufficient, if I have it and Weta, it dies. That's generally the line for Spooky, is you can dive into the win more pool of like, oh, I can have stuff that requires my commander to function well. It doesn't have to just be like, it doesn't have to just be a fucking heater. But the 2 mana creature dealing damage to target opponent, especially if Weta is one of our primary ways, like if Weta's our primary way of dealing damage. Right, we're doubling the triggers, but it's like, oh my god, I have 10 pennies and this magician said they could double them if I gave him my firstborn child. You know, Weta fights Donna Noble, deals Donna Noble 1 damage. Donna Noble double triggers and deals 1 damage to target opponent 2 times. Thoughts on ignoring the rules and throwing Indoraptor into the deck? Totally reasonable. I'm sure everybody would let you do that. And then Blazing Sunsteel, if we were really hard up for any target effects, then I would be a little bit more forgiving of Blazing Sunsteel. But in a world where Screaming Nemesis is just a card, we would rather just play Screaming Nemesis and have it do the job of Blazing Sunsteel without having to be an equipment that otherwise does nothing on its own. Again, the test of like, if turn 1, I don't do anything. Turn 2, I play Blazing Sunsteel. Turn 3, I play Weta. Turn 4, I cry and pass. Or turn 3, I play Weta. Turn 4, I play Screaming Nemesis, and then they fight, and then I get to lock 2 people out of gaining life for the rest of the game. Or if I have other enrage triggers, I can begin spreading enrage triggers around. The 2 ugly children were born for the pits. How about Cetizen Tactics? This is what you replace Where's that where's that other guy I was shitting on the whole time? Ulvenwald Tracker. This is who you replace Ulvenwald Tracker with. This could be a fucking board wipe for you. Do not talk back to me, Starry. How often do you have to worry about more than one person running away with life gain? Not often, Lucarion, but the point is that is the floor of Screaming Nemesis. What you're actually going to be using Screaming Nemesis for is dealing damage to your other enraged creatures. But at minimum, it is pinging other players and shutting off life gain. But even if you don't have to worry about life gain, it then becomes at minimum a weak pinger and at maximum a way to double dip on enraged triggers with your other creatures. Okay, so Setessan Tactics becomes the 1-to-1 swap for Ulvenwald Tracker. Bonuses of Setessan Tactics. Setessan Tactics is not going to be accidentally collateraled by any of the low-to-the-ground sweepers we want to run in the deck to trigger our entire board at once. Setessan Tactics is also going to allow more of our creatures to fight on a big explosive turn than Ulvenwald Tracker is going to let us do. And I believe it ends up mana cheaper because it's only 1 mana. It scales better into the late game. So yeah, fuck this guy too. And then I do not enjoy this 2-mana ramp. I really dislike it. This is probably the most detail oriented I'm going to get about your mana curve, Dark. But in perfect world, what would be very nice is if we got to cast Weta on turn 2. That's good for our setup. Farseek, Nature's Lore, 3 Visits, and Llanowar Elves all seem like I am not speeding up Weta at all. I am doing this because I heard green players were supposed to ramp, and I am nothing if not sheeple. And I know you're not sheeple, Dark. I know what you play in League of Legends. You're a bastard. And so I think your ramp section should also be oriented around it either gets Weta out sooner or it is massively helpful to getting out my big enrage motherfuckers. So that is more stuff like Skyshroud Claim. Because I also don't necessarily want us competing with Weta. Geo, not very much. Oh my god. So Sky Shroud Claim is the best version of this effect because it's bringing them in untapped. But with the land density you have, I don't think you have to be too worried about getting to your 4th land drop of the game. What we do need to be very worried about is getting to this 5 to 7 mana range. This is where basically like all of our truly playable cards come in, and this is where all our goofy shit is. Lava Mob, you do raise the good point of Llanowar Elves being fine because we'll have multicolor lands. I found that because Weta needs mana to tap, I'm rarely pushing to get her out exactly on turn 3. Then, same argument, but reflavored as your ramp should get you 2 lands and not 1. Your deck is so mana hungry for the things that actually matter, that I do not think you care about the tempo advantage of being able to ramp on turn 2. Like I'm gonna keep it real, dog. This is where the brainworm got you. Building your curve so that you can hyper aggressively drop Weta. I don't even know how you would do that. This actually isn't possible. But these cards are contributing to a game plan of I drop Weta turn 3 with an extra mana up to have it fight something, which also doesn't matter. And if we don't need to drop Weta on turn 3, then we should be doing more things like Kodama's Reach or Cultivate anyway. Because at that point, we want to be guaranteeing that we get to the 5 to 7 land range as quickly as possible. If you're okay with skipping a turn 3 Weta, then that means going into 3 mana ramp and having that compete with your commander's mana value. But we do need stuff that's going to give us a greater surplus of mana than just 2 mana get 1. 2 mana get 1 fucking sucks here because you are not trying to get started quickly. You are trying to get to highway speeds in a reasonable time. You are not drag racing. No, this is very brainwormy. Open the Way is distinctly playable ramp. Yeah, you were correct to avoid Grothama Dark. And I also can't help but notice that one of the things you have traded away in order to include all of these very like cute trigger maxing cards is we have no fucking responses to anything anybody else is doing. We have Swords to Plowshares, and after that we are praying to God that they die to 13 or 5 damage. Or that we get Silverclad Ferocidons. So I would suggest at least I would suggest you include at least 1 or 2 pieces of broccoli in your deck. The ones I'm going to instantly recommend to you. Right, creatures die to bees being ordered to stab them, and any problematic non-creature permanent makes you instantly shit yourself, and that is a problem I would like to solve for you right now. So the things I'm going to recommend are Grasp of Fate and Council's Judgment. These are 3 mana cards that will allow you to remove perhaps multiple problematic non-creature permanents. I do believe that you can deal with other problematic creatures. I think the second somebody lays down a scary artifact, you cry in a corner. There is also Dismantling Wave. This is quite good. Your deck cares relatively little about artifacts or enchantments, but it will either let you blow up one It will let you blow up one per game, or you can cycle it late game to be like, what's up, bitches? It's all creatures now. So I would add things like this, and then you can also consider Stroke of Midnight and Beast Within, the sort of classical white and green removal spells, because as noted, they will give you creatures that you can have way to make your creatures fight to give you enrage triggers. And then I do highly recommend at least one of either the Avacyn Angel of Hopes or the Stonehoof Chieftain. I think you need something at the top end that's going to let you swing with impunity and, more importantly, trigger enrage with impunity. And then I think the deck begins to become more cohesive, and you can kind of... you can speedrun getting to enrage that matters instead of being like, okay, here's this opening act. Oh no, they're cut already. Here's the opening act that super fucking sucks, and now I'm gonna begin playing the enraged creatures that matter. Like, we want it to be just, here are enraged creatures that matter. Here is ramp to pay for them. Here are synergy pieces to protect them. Oh my god. We're gonna have to complain on Blue Sky. This would be quite good as protection, for protection as well. I opened the wrong PowerPoint. Dark, this is where I'm going to place you on the pyramid of deck actualization right now. I think we threw in like a million cards that have enrage. We did have the archetypal enrage into fail to win the game combo, and then we had a few little cuties. And I think that with the changes we have recommended, you can get into highlighting the enraged creatures you actually want to highlight while still having a chance at winning the game through combat damage or direct damage. So thank you very much for submitting. I hope you enjoyed this, or it was at least helpful. We need to do another manual ad break, and then Rat Fan, hit me with that personal question. Paul, I am not on Blue Sky. Badgers, fuck Planeswalkers. Hey Maul, did you consider making a deck tech for the Aether Drift? Is it Shark? I want to get back to Magic, but I don't have time to get into building a core. And if I recall correctly, you were building one, asking again in case you didn't intentionally skip it, and won't ask if it was intentional. I'm not sure, Squid, just because my deck techs have never done tremendously well. I'm sure I could do a much better job now than I have done on them historically, but I don't know. They're just straight up okay. Into the ad zone. I will see you all in a moment. And then we're doing Anbrew's deck. Oh no, we're doing Roar's deck next. Roar's up next. Boss man, when are we talking about the Final Fantasy cards revealed today, or we wait until the full set? Martin, we're waiting until Tuesday. We do spoiler reviews and Magic news reviews on Tuesdays. I call them Total Drama Tuesdays. All the Final Fantasy spoilers we are going to talk about at that time. And then, okay. What non-blue color pair would you build a control deck in? It depends on your semantic definition of control, particularly as it relates to the difference between hate bear or stacks-based control and just straight up counterspelling stuff. But you could build a Naya hate bears list pretty easily. You could build a Selesnya stacks list relatively easily. You can even do mono white stacks, although it's not quite as good. White has good hate bears. Green has good hate bears. Red has gamble. Red also gives you Rocco. If you wanted to get into like use black for control, the only real control thing black can do is I kill all your creatures and I try to make you discard cards, but black is like either you establish a total hand lock and you are insufferable, or you fail to establish a total hand lock and then you just lose after making everybody mildly annoyed for 10 minutes. Talamar von Geist, thank you for the 20th month in a row at tier 1, my friend. Welcome back to the dog home. I've been okay. How have you been doing? But I think Selesnya or Naya are the most reasonable. I want to build a control deck that actually plays Magic. Most of the people I have seen build black control, Orzhov control, Rakdos control. The overarching theme of those control decks is the word failure and like big vaudeville light up bulbs. They're just always awful. They're always really bad at winning the game, and they're really bad at playing the villain. Like they just don't get it. The Orzhov control players, the Rakdos control players, they just don't get it. As much as I hate green, like the Selesnya control players actually understand the assignment of being the control dipshit. Nick, thank you for the Prime sub, my friend. Welcome to the dog home. I decided to stop spending money on Magic cards, so kind of mixed. I think that's a very reasonable and healthy decision, my friend. I hope you are still enjoying the game with the power of proxies. All right, we are out of the ad break. Oh, yes, MRTN and anybody else watching. We will stop the stream to talk about specific Final Fantasy spoilers if you donate at least $10, since we've had one person take us up on that. But until then, we're doing Roar's deck, who has asked for the Foghorn, Maldhorn voice. Get fucked, everybody listening. Which means it's time to bust out the good old Benoit Blanc voice. Oh, you're moving on to a new card game. Well, then I hope you have fun in the new card game, and I'm sorry that the love affair with Magic has ended for the time. Alright, I said. Boy, howdy, we got a deck to look at today. Alright, I think that's acceptable. What do we got today from Roar? We have a Scara deck. I want to play Valavoth Terror Eater at high power tables, and I've foolishly restricted myself to putting him in the command zone. Oh. Stop the music. Son, we all want things in this life. You know, you go about your days, your weeks, your years, you wish for things, and when you're a child, you still believe in Santa Claus. You make a list, you say, I want a pony, I want this girl at school to like me back, I want my parents to buy me that water slide. And it appears that nobody ever told you, Roar, that Santa Claus isn't fucking real, okay? Just like the Queen of England. It does not exist. You may not have everything you want. You need to make choices in this world. And the first choice you got to make right here, right now, is do you want a Valavoth Commander deck or do you want a good deck? I'm sorry to say, I love him. I love Mothra. All right? I got posters in my room you can't see because of the green screen. I love Mothra. This man is dog ass as a commander. Billy, pull up Mothra. Dog ass. Amazing. Amazing to cheat him out. Amazing to cheat him out. Amazing to reanimate. Amazing to cost reduce. If you ever pay 9 mana for this man, give up now. Give up now. That's what I got to tell you first and foremost. Let's get through the rest of your primer and then see what your dex actually is. However, he is big and people don't like when he exists. Other people have been much faster to get their scare of things online. Gee, boy howdy, I fucking wonder why. I've pivoted from theft to life gain loss to forcing people to sack things while I try to ramp out Valavoth. Then, I hopefully keep him around while I smack people. This is the first attempt at a high-powered deck for me. It includes a lot of staples. Is this too fucked up, hateful to not get booed off the table, or should I take a different approach? What's the worst nightmare, the idea or the execution? Listen, before I even look upon your list of staples, I just know from the rip that you are doing beach sprints with a boulder above your head and a particularly bitey cat in your gym shorts. Like, why are we making it so hard on ourselves to play the game? Because this guy does nothing. This man does not achieve anything. Let me pull up this deck link. Let me see how many. Mono black controlled. I'm sorry to do this to you, Roar, but I have a sneaking suspicion I'm gonna need to keep the stream deck close to me for this one. All right, I'm a sneaking. All right. All right. All right. Yep, there we go. Normal behavior here. Yes, yes. There we go. That sounds about right. Perfect. Perfect indeed. Just as expected. Lovely. Okay. I think that's where we can stop Vine booming you for the immediate future, but goddamn, Roar. So Kilroy's asking, what does Valavoth do in this deck again? Nothing. Roar, what you have submitted to me is you have told me, my man, you have got to check out my chocolate chip. No, sorry, hold on. What's the... Roar, you have submitted to me Boy howdy, Maul, you have got to try out my homemade mac and cheese recipe. It'll knock your toenails clean off. And then you have brought me a store-bought chocolate chip cookie with a wet noodle on top of it. This is very much an instance of you have built a high-power black deck. I'm not questioning the edibility of the chocolate chip cookie you have presented me. However, Valavoth doesn't fucking matter in this deck. Maybe if the game goes long enough because you don't have a blue player, the game will last long enough for you to play Valavoth and hit somebody once. But this is your mono black deck. This is not your Valavoth deck. And that's kind of the problem with having Valavoth in the command zone is mono black's not good at permanent based ramp. Mono black is good at fraud. And that's a very reasonable way to pay for Valavoth in general, but typically out of the graveyard or something like that. Because, see, here's the thing. Here's how you got to think about it. Right, Roar? What is Valavoth? Says Elder Demon on the card, but we think about the lore of Duskmourn. Valavoth is the plane. Valavoth is an entire house. And how is somebody in today's age meant to buy a house? That's right, mortgage fraud. You must lie, cheat, and steal if you are going to have your 9-mana commander. And to do that, it's much simpler to chuck them into the trash and then bring them out of the trash for 1 mana than it is to try to afford 9 mana for them to not do anything. Boy, what in the Sam fuck are you doing? Now, boy, I said... Where's Conrad? You been talking to Conrad? You been talking to Uncle Conrad? My Valavoth deck, they said. My Valavoth deck. Embarrassing. Embarrassing. So, here's how I'm going to try to help you. We can do mono black high power. Mono black high power has been effectively solved for many, many years now. You can do high power mono black. You can have quite a good time. You can have quite a good time if you just want to play high power Magic. Because another difficulty this deck is going to run into is you are bracket 4. You have to play against combo players. Motherfucker, you have to play against off-meta CEDH decks. And you're planning to ramp into a 9-mana beatdown. You have got a draft strategy. And you're bringing that shit into bracket 4. You cannot do it. Now, typically, when somebody wants to build a deck like this, it's because you like Valavoth, right? I love Valavoth. I get that. So if we want Valavoth to be the hero of the deck, it is deterministically going to have to be outside of the command zone. We either have to get other colors involved. We can even, if we want to stay mono black, we can do that, although I don't know why you would. So what I need to know, this is now therapy. We're not editing this deck. The only action we are going to take with this deck is I'm going to kick open the trash can for you. What I need to know from you, what possessed you to do this? Did you like Valavoth and your friends are evil? Or is it the thrill of being able to beat a combo player and say, I beat this combo player with Valavoth? I can sympathize with either of those positions, but I gotta know what I'm working with if we're gonna correct it. Would ramp through sacrificing stuff to altars to ramp be feasible, Maul? Danny, that is Twitch chat's strike 1 on suggestions for this deck. I like the idea of presenting Valavoth as a real and lumen threat, but I wanted to try to keep him in the command zone. Okay. So here's the thing, right? At this point, Valavoth is not so much in the command zone as he is in the cuck chair. We have him in the command zone, but he does not matter in the deck. There's a lot of cards where the way to make them the highlight flavor, where the way to make them the highlight of the deck is to put them in the command zone. However, he can be a threat, and he can even be the main threat without ever entering the command zone. And really, if you want Valavoth to be the primary threat of your deck, I'm gonna highly suggest. Hold on, let me Vine Boom this person I'm banning for interrupting my train of thought. I'm gonna highly suggest that we move towards bracket 3. Combat damage is a much more reasonable win condition outside of bracket 4. Bracket 4, we're typically dealing with combo players. We're typically dealing with infinites, non-deterministic storm turns. If you want Valavoth to be a big and meaningful threat, what you're probably going to have to do is make a control deck and then cheat Valavoth out and use Valavoth to beat people down after you have prevented them from playing the game at all. Right now, it looks like we're kind of on that plan, but we're mostly on that plan with respect to what if I killed all your creatures? And as long as all we're playing against is a dinosaur player, that's dope. As soon as we get involved with an is-it player, we are fucked. But we could make this work in bracket 3, because I'll tell you what, we don't need Orcish Bowmasters. We don't need the One Ring. We don't need Bolus's Citadel. We don't need the tutors, or we don't need these tutors specifically. Motherfucker, what? I need a moment. All right, I'm back. I'm okay. I'm fine. So all of that is to, I don't get braids here. I don't think they do either. This looks like a situation where deck was not working, and so we imported everything we knew to be good in black in the hopes that it would make the deck work. And that is usually a sign that you're trying to push a commander past its natural ability. So I would really recommend you just instantly cut every game changer. We are still going to end up with bracket 3. I originally liked the idea of going bracket 3 with life pay and life gain, and that's exactly what happened, what you just said. All right, yeah, perfect. Then we're going to cut, like honestly, I'm cutting the whole list. Whole deck is cut. We will Hall of Fame this forever as proof that the One Ring can be a bad card. So what I'm going to recommend you do instead, there are a couple flavor angles we can come at this from. The two I'm going to submit to you presently. Rakdos, Lord of Riots. If we want to play Valavoth from hand, this is the way we want to go. This is going to allow us to play with the themes of life loss, and it's going to allow us to use that theme of life loss to cost reduce Valavoth to hopefully 3 mana, which is a downright reasonable rate for our 9/9. 3 mana for a 9/9 is quite nice. That gets a hell yeah, brother, out of me. It also allows you to play a ton of big creature threats. Now, you will have a relatively generic deck. Rakdos, Lord of Riots has been done to death, but at least it's going to work, it's going to do what you want, and you can very reliably play your man Valavoth. The other direction you can go is playing Valavoth out of the graveyard. I believe this is the wrong winter. This is the wrong winter. Winter Cynical Opportunist is another commander that can work for this. However, anything Golgari will get the job done, and the goal of a winter deck is going to be get Valavoth into the graveyard and then avoid paying for Valavoth entirely with a spell like Reanimate. Those are the two directions I would submit to you. But right now, this is like, this deck is a tragic overdose of plastic surgery, where we have tried to pull it in too many different directions without a care for what the deck actually wanted to look like, and now it is this unrecognizable mess of generic good stuff. Marin could work. I would not recommend Satoru. Thank you. I definitely needed to hear this. I've been tinkering with it for too long. Listen, I get the impulse. I definitely do. And I want to, in general, combat damage stops as a viable win con above bracket 3 unless you're playing stacks. Unless you can stop people from casting spells, you can't mess with creature-based threats above bracket 3. It just don't work. It just doesn't work. Too many motherfuckers are attempting to Thoracle. So I'll just run a greatest hits list of people I think could do this man well. I have Valavoth in my Hashiton deck. You can not only make a 4/4 copy of him, you can then reanimate him later. You could do Marin, and you could do some big Aristocrats loop to eventually get enough experience counters to drop this man onto the board. We could do something in Sultai. Who would we use in Sultai to make this happen? We already talked about Rakdos, Lord of Riots. You could do a Glob value deck. You could do Taval. I'm going to keep it to Glob and Taval because for the most part I fucking hate Sultai. But yeah, Glob or Taval would just be like Sultai value pile, and then eventually we're going to reanimate Valavoth out of it. Ranger 34 of the Spine, thank you for the Prime sub, my friend. Welcome to the dog home. Oh yes, and then Nick, thank you for that reasonable suggestion. If we do want to do a big mana deck, kind of group huggy, group sluggy, Yurlock is an acceptable way to do this. I don't like Valavoth and Henza so much because in Henza you got to do a lot of work to get him out on the field permanently. I like Yurlock the most in Jund because Yurlock can ramp us. But we are deep down in this corner, my friend, I suggest kindly, with love in my mouth, I suggest you give up on your dreams. The Valavoth Commander deck, this is not even a failure on you as a person, no matter what the first 20 minutes of this roast made it seem like, but it's not on you as a person. It is simply anything you could do to make the Valavoth 99 good enough to keep up in bracket 4, by necessity, has to be so powerful that it will overshadow anything that Valavoth could do. So there is simply no way that we can get it done with Valavoth in the command zone, but there is very much a way we can get it done with Valavoth in the 99. And the ways you have available to you are I'm going to mill Valavoth or get Valavoth into my graveyard and get him back for free, or I'm going to cost reduce based off the suffering of others with something like Rakdos, or I'm going to do Jund, big mana, and then it's just all big shitties. So I'd recommend any of those. Belby is also an option for that. This is again kind of like group huggy, group sluggy. So those are the directions I recommend you take it. And then you can stuff it full of, if you do the reanimate route, there are a million things like Vile Entomber, like the card Entomb itself, like Buried Alive. There's a ton of redundancy and a ton of, okay, we're leaning towards big mana. You little shit ass. Any pieces beyond the commander that help. So what I would recommend, you're going to use all of your game changer slots on tutors. Your game changer slots are going to be demonic tutor, vampiric tutor. You're also going to include diabolic tutor, because we have, oh, and then your third game change is worldly tutor, because everything you want to do is I need to get this one specific creature out of my fucking deck. And after that, it's just building a relatively robust curve in terms of mana production, because you got to count to 9. So that means Llanowar Elves still matters. Things like Skyshroud Claim tend to matter more. The same thing we were telling Dark. You're playing a game, you need 2 lands out of that ramp spell. You cannot afford to be spending a card just to get 1 land. We are not doing equivalent exchange over here. You are defying the laws of alchemy to bring a moth house to life. You need to turn that 1 card into 2 lands. Then yes, you can also use tremendous things like Defense of the Heart to cheat this man out. And then really the other gigantic beaters can be anything you like. There's a ton of, I also like Archon of Cruelty, as Nick is saying. But there's a ton of gigantic silly motherfuckers you can play. Yurlok specifically is going to play a lot of doublers and is going to kind of make the entire table go crazy. But that's what I would do. Thank you very much for the submissions, and I wish you the best of luck on your healing journey. Next, we got Anbrew. We're going to do a 1-minute ad break. That guy Foz hit me with a personal question. Also, Pikmin Boy 69, thank you for the tier 1 sub for the 3rd month in a row. Hi Mauled, it's been a bit since I've seen a stream. I've been focusing on my other expensive hobby, Warhammer 40k. Oh no, Pikmin. I don't know if we can do, Eris, I don't know if we can do random smasher passes because Scryfall is down. All right, I'm gonna do a 1 minute ad break, and then Brews up. Pick the number 100 commander on EDA Trek, then. Maybe EDA Trek also has a random card. Excavation technique. I'm going to pass. I do not need a free enema. How does one submit a deck for this kind of thing? I'm new here. No worries, Punchy. The 3 ways you can submit a deck are, we have a free roast stream every month. It's a raffle on Twitch. If you don't get into that, you can also buy a commission on Ko-Fi, which is $69 on my Ko-Fi the first Sunday of every month. And then if you don't get into any of those and you have more money than you have patience, you can pay me $500 on the spot, and I will stop whatever I'm doing to roast your deck. Hidemi, it went up from the $50. It's not going up from the $69. The $69 roast took 1 hour and I think it took like 1 hour and 4 minutes to sell out. So it taking over an hour to sell out, I'm happy there. And then that guy, I'm still waiting. I'll scroll up and see if I can find your personal question from sooner. Lime0665, thank you for the Twitch follow. Welcome to the doghouse, my friends. Will the next free roast be before or after the full release of the Final Fantasy set? And Eris hit me with the personal question. I will leave that here. I'll do a poll. All right, we are running a poll on Twitch. Topic King, I would probably play Orcs if I got into 40k. Because I can see the argument for why we would. Dale, it's only on Twitch. Don't worry about it. I can't run them on YouTube because YouTube hates you guys. But I can see the argument for letting people get in with the freebies after they have had the time to like build all their decks for it. The only thing it would fuck up is you would have to buy a roast without knowing if you got in for free that month or not. But honestly, that's like, I don't think that's critically important. Personal question, Mauled. What have you and Z been making for dinners lately? Z has been making a series of the most fucked up, evil, and tasty curries imaginable. It has been heavenly, and I am losing my mind a little bit. All right, let's handle Anbrew's deck. This is also a scary deck. a creature-focused deck that revolves around playing and cheating out dinosaurs, then pissing them off with small amounts of damage to get value out of enrage triggers. Alright, Dark, let's see if they fucked up the same way you did. Dino Crisis. This deck originally began as a silly bear deck that I wanted to run Muruganda petroglyphs in. How the fuck did we get here? A friend recommended a better choice for that card would be in a dinosaur deck. That same friend recommended Pantalaza and a few other choice dinos, and everything kind of fell into place. Okay, so you have a bad friend who recommends that you do bad things. After looking for dinos to go into the 99, I discovered Enrage and decided I wanted to make a deck revolving around that keyword instead of making strictly a big stompy dino deck. A few cards in considering will be handy, I just don't know what to do with them, what to swap out. The few times I've played this deck, it can get a really strong board presence early, but is weak to removal due to being creature focused, and I don't really have any consistent removal myself or evasion. I also won't always draw my enraging instants and sorceries, but the deck seems to be strong even without them. Okay, Mango. I want you to grab Itali Primal Conqueror. And you know what? Also, grab Carnage Tyrant too. And put them next to each other and have them do little kissy lips towards each other. As we zoom in slowly on, I wanted to make a deck revolving around that keyword instead of making strictly a big stompy dino deck. And then make a Tali shake. And then have Gishath come off the fucking top rope like a WWE fighter. You stupid motherfucker. Okay. Couple problems off rip. I kind of see what you're aiming for. I think it is going to be difficult to aim for the enrage bullseye when you have to bend the arrow around the massive dinosaur ass. Me personally. Pantalaza is a very good card. Pantalaza is almost never scary. You have correctly identified in your primer that a thing that typically holds dinosaur decks and creature decks in general back from being scary is you establish a board presence early, everybody freaks out, you get board wiped, you cry, game's over. Pantalaza is very good at that loop. But Pantalaza is so good at just cheating additional dinosaurs into existence. I doubt that we're going to have a lot of enrage flavor. I feel like this is 99% dinosaur, 1% enrage. I can't help but notice that we had a tag talking about being angry, and none of the dog. No, not the 3/4 with reach. You don't get to do this. Not in scary. Even if you're wrong, you don't get to tag a fucking practically vanilla 3/4 as scary. This is the scary deck. This is the other scary deck that goes in the pod with that hopeless Valavoth deck. Oh my god, we're doing fucking Ixalan draft. Not the 5 mana 3/4. You know the point of Discover is that we want them to have good stat lines though, right? You know the point of Discover is that the stat lines are supposed to do something. Okay, but at least EDH Rec has given you a few playable dinosaurs. Dino adjacent. Sure. How to piss off your dinosaur. This is true. These cards do allow you to deal damage to your dinosaurs. I won't get you for that. Yo, dog, I heard you liked dinosaurs. We are fucking shoving paste into our mouth, dude. All right, so I'm going to downgrade you to silly now. All right, here's our enrage stuff. No. 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 How did you manage to pick an even worse version of the card we jumped on in Dark's deck? 6 mana to deal 3 to somebody? Just hit them with another fucking dinosaur. So you raptor-shaped ICBM. So this is the only thing approaching scary in this deck because it is an infinite combo, and you have managed to make an infinite combo where the only outlet is killing one player and then you draw, which is probably the funniest outlet for this type of infinite. I think these types of infinites are chronically unfunny. I do, however, think it's kind of funny to go, okay, we're going to have a 3-way tie, except for you, Jim. You, I'm going to fling one of the dinosaurs at, and you're going to die. And then we're going to draw. Why the fuck do we have 42 lands? Oh, true. You can fling the raptor, and then it doesn't. Then it's not an ICBM, though. Then it's just a raptor-based Ponzi scheme. Yeah, Dark, 42 lands is only useful if you're running landfall or if you watch way too much MTG Goldfish. Ah, now I understand. Okay, yes, never mind. So then this is... Then these 3 cards are fine, and it's merely the other 96 that are suspect. Let's see how it plays. Just immediately. You tagged this as your responsible land base. Did you think that you had to spread the usefulness of like 34 lands across 42 lands and that's how we ended up here? Okay, at long last, turn 4, we can begin ramping in a way that matters. Another, an 18th tap land. I have this deck in paper and didn't want to overspend on dual lands and such. How budget are we then? Let me see, let me just... Okay, 250. We can definitely do better than this. And quite frankly, this is too many lands for a deck that has green in it. This is like you should be proxying in the first place, even if we do not wish to proxy. this is too many fucking lands and is only appropriate if you were running like a deck that had a color combo that had no green in it. But anyway, we play Atali. I get this guy. Right? Yeah, discover X where that's creature's toughness. I play this guy. I get to... Nah. I play this guy. After playing this guy. I get to discover 8. Just to really drive the point home, on turn 6, I am going to cast your big enrage spell, and we are going to get a grand total of 0, 0, 0, 0 triggers. I will spend 2 mana, because you're so good at cost reducing, to discover 4. We missed that guy. I'm so happy. This is perfect. I play Raptor Hatchling to discover 1. Oh look, I missed my whole deck. No, I'll do it right for you. We play Carnage Tyrant. It triggers Marauding Raptor. Nothing happens, but we get to discover for 6. We get this guy. Marauding Raptor hits it for 2, and it dies. If we could play in the Arms of an Angel without getting copyright struck, you bet your sweet ass it would be playing right now. We play Raptor Hatchling. It dies, but we get a 3/3. Next turn. They're being dealt 2 by Marauding Raptor, Terrence, every time something enters. We play Silver-Clad Ferocidons. Each opponent has to sack 1. For 7 mana, we only get to discover for 5 because we have no idea how numbers work. I get Ravenous Daggertooth. It fucking dies. I have personally seen what I need to see. I have personally seen what I need to see out of the deck. So let's reorient around a few things. Number one, I am convinced this land base, despite the fact that you have called it responsible, this land base is built exclusively in an attempt to get a unending Primal Surge trigger. I fully believe that is what this is for, despite the fact that you will very quickly non-bow yourself with all of the instant sorceries you have. I think you assuredly lack the concentration of enrage effects for this to feel like an enrage deck. You might tell people it's built around the enrage mechanic. It is built around Pentlaza wishing dinosaurs into existence. My intent was to use the instants and sorceries to trigger enrage. Right, what I'm telling you is that because you have so few things that have enrage on them in the deck, and so many of them are quite bad. Like, let's live in Magical Christmas Land where we get Imperial Ceratops out and we cast Dual Shot targeting it. We gain 2 life, nothing else happens. Nobody at the table is like, watch out, Anbrew's getting their enrage game plan online. They're just like, holy fucking 18th dinosaur, man. Will somebody board wipe them? And so if we want... So it's really Are there are there a couple enrage mechanics? Oh my god, the frilled death spitter is here. So let's before I pop a fucking blood vessel, let's orient around our greatest enthusiasm. Because I'm not trying to go, this just sucks and is no good. It's you're trying to do something that excites you, and I think you're getting a little confused in no small part because whatever friend suggested this to you is either a bad friend or illiterate. But what we should orient around is, are there a couple enrage triggers? Like, are there a couple enrage cards you really like? Are there a couple arts you really like? Because we have a lot of stuff in here that looks like it's just in here because it says the word enrage on them. And for the most part, it looks like they're in here because they say dinosaur on them, and you're just playing into the Pantlaza has a million babies in front of you game plan. And then we have a few things that, much love to you, betray a deep lack of understanding about what makes a magic card practical. Because to play into what Pantlaza wants to do, we typically want to be playing things that have pretty high toughness. Getting 1 point of toughness per 1 point of mana is actually kind of a bad rate if we're trying to play around Discover. Because we can have things like Aganosaur Rex, which are almost 2 points of toughness for 1 point of mana. And there are a couple enrage triggers that are quite good. Trapjaw Tyrant is very good. Silverclad Ferocidons is quite good for the late game. Ripjaw Raptor is very good. Ranging Raptors is an all-timer. I don't believe in Cacophodon here, personally, because Cacophodon, all you really have to untap is like lands, which is very much you're playing a resource game like it's a game of inches when you are literally wishing dinosaurs into existence with your commander. So we have 15 cards that say generic good stuff. We have a really good tag. No hate on the tag. I love this. We have another 10% of the deck that fully does not work with anything but these 16 cards, and 10 of these 16 cards are unforgivable dog shit. If we use Hornet Sting on Raptor Hatchling, the only thing we have succeeded at is word search, because we have found the word enrage and we have been allowed to speak it. But we are playing hardcore silly magic at that point. Like, Pantlaza is legitimately too good of a commander to be spending turns on Hornet Stinging our Raptor Hatchling. So we have this critical mass of like, here's 12 bad cards, and then here's another 10 bad cards, and they only do anything if I get to play them both at the same time, and most of the time, that's still much worse than just like, I play a Tali. I play Aganosaur Rex, and then I get a Tali. So there's things where, like, Cacophodon could almost be forgiven because you get to spend 4 mana to discover 5. That is a little bit of value add. You're getting potentially more mana out of the discover trigger than you put in. But a lot of the other enrage triggers have extremely, extremely milquetoast stat lines, which actively non-bow with Pentlaza. Do you think I would be better served by just pivoting to a more focused, stompy dino deck? Well, I think it depends on why you wanted to include enrage in the first place. If you really like enrage, you're probably better off pivoting to a Watya list or a Weta list like we saw from Dark earlier. Like there is a commander specifically for holy shit, I love enrage triggers. I think another thing you would also like, we just need to know when we build a commander deck, we're typically building a commander deck because we want to play with some of our favorite cards. I just thought it seemed neat. Dope. Okay. If we think it just seems neat, we don't know what cards are good or not, this is where I'm going to place much more blame on your friend than I'm going to place on you. I believe the reason this is failing, your friend is giving you a very strong commander. It is like impossible to make a Pentlaza deck that is not threatening. If you really like all of these enrage triggers, your home is bracket 1, bracket 2, and Pentlaza is like hardcore bracket 3. So even though this is very attractive because you can get a lot of value out of it, if you think the enrage triggers are neat, I highly encourage you to build a deck around enrage triggers. You don't have to use Weta. You can even change colors if there are good enrage triggers in other colors, which I don't think there are. But Pentlaza is just like so good that people have to sit on you. And because creature-based strategies are so fragile in general, it's kind of guaranteeing that you always become a threat and then always get board wiped. Like if you if we think enrage triggers are cool and fun and we want to use the enrage triggers as much as we can, this is where we want more stuff like Selfless Spirit, Frontline Medic. We want more ways to keep our creatures indestructible, because the two directions you can go once you are leaning into enrage is you can either do the Weta strategy, and the Weta strategy is I sit in a corner and I have my stuff fight each other and I get a lot of triggers out of that. Or there is the more stompy strategy, which is I'm playing Naya go wide, and when I swing, if you block me, I'm going to get bonus value out of it. That kind of sounds like it might be up your alley, based off the fact that you have tried to combine Dinosaur Kindred and Pentlaza with enrage triggers. Is like, I'm going to get a bunch of enrage stuff and then I'm going to hit you and hey, you tried to stop me, so now I get more stuff. If that sounds like the type of thing you want to do, I would recommend switching away from Pentlaza, because Pentlaza is just too good for that deck. So let's look at other Naya commanders that might serve you better. Straight up, Rocco's instantly better. Rocco's just card advantage, life gain, and 1/1 counters. This is just generically good and would serve you better. Rocco Cabaretti Caterer would also be good just to let you tutor whatever specific enraged creature you wanted. Jetmir would be very good, but Jetmir is going to present the same issue as Pentlaza, where it is so strong that it takes over the deck. Let's for a moment talk about this guy. Here's what Marisi can do for you. Marisi says, nobody gets to cast combat tricks against me. Marisi also incentivizes people to block you, because if you connect with him, you goad your opponents, which one means they can't swing at you, and two, motherfuckers hate that shit. So this is actually a pretty clever way in your command zone to try to trick people into, not even trick, motivate people to block you. And then rather than having to spend all these card slots on shooting your own guys, you can spend your card slots on instant speed ways to buff your guys so that they win all their fights that then nobody can respond to because you have Marisi. And that way your deck can be about enrage creatures crashing out. Weta was the first thing we talked about. So everybody's suggesting Weta, you can deactivate your neurons. We said that 5 or 10 minutes ago. Uriel doesn't fucking matter. These guys don't fucking matter. Aragorn Hornburg Hero is actually another one that I'm going to suggest is kind of a clever option for this enrage creatures crash out game plan. It's going to give all of them first strike and renown. So renown means if you deal combat damage to a player, they get a +1/+1 counter, and it will double their +1/+1 counters as the game goes on. So this becomes another reason that people are going to want to block you, and either those blocks are going to be successful and you're going to get enraged triggers, or their blocks are going to be unsuccessful and you deal damage. MLP, it depends on the block. The first strike is legitimately difficult for us. So first strike will prevent chump blocks from doing enrage, which is why I would call this guy worse than Marisi, but it is still acceptable flavor. Okay, actually, who the fuck was suggesting this? I'm incapable of witnessing Final Fantasy spoilers. I'm incapable of witnessing it. This is tokens only. Okay. I think we are getting... Oh, I did forget to turn the music back on. I think we're getting pretty deep into the bottom of the barrel back right now. And so what I would food token. That doesn't fucking matter. What I would recommend most, Andrew, is it sounds like you want to have a bracket 2 Stompy deck. A bracket 2 Stompy deck that focuses on enrage creatures. If we want to do that, it is very possible we want a core of around 20 to 25 enrage creatures, and then we want either anthems, which are effects that buff your entire board, things like this are War Leader's Call. Everything gets +1/+1. Things that are going to make it safer for your creatures to attack, like Frontline Medic. Things that you can hold back to make them indestructible at a glance. And I actually don't think you should be using too many card slots on things like Rile if you want Enrage to be stompy as well. If you want it to be primarily be achieved like I crash out, I get extra value because I have crashed out, don't worry about triggering it with Rile. Worry about pushing damage onto people, and eventually they will have to block. Yes, Andrew, Stonehoof Chieftain would be great. Rite of Passage is going to be quite good as well. But the top end you want to be focusing on is like Stonehoof Chieftain. I would personally recommend Vigor, like I did for Darkened Aura's deck, where this just replaces all of your existing Enrage triggers with Enrage, I get 1/1 counters. Yes, MLP, it does, but the non-bow is so good that you don't give a fuck. Like, oh no. Oh god, oh fuck. My Imperial Ceratops took damage, and I didn't gain 2 life. Instead, I just got 3 1/1 counters. And nobody give a fuck. Would haste be good as well? Haste is fine, but probably unnecessary. It's certainly not a bad thing if there's a good haste enabler, but like I wouldn't play this. I legitimately do not think you need anger. I don't think we have enough legendaries. Again, like, haste is just not that important. What is important is mind control. If your board gets wide, you now get to decide how everybody is blocking. Isn't that fun? Isn't that a fun time for the entire family? So this will let you selectively trigger your Enrage on your opponent's poor mana dorks. And I would also probably, even if you don't put Weta in the command zone, it is like 100% worthwhile to put Weta in the 99. Dark, you are allowed to say nothing blocks with this. This can be, this can definitely be, I choose 0 creatures block this combat. No, this is just going to board wipe us instantly. So we would want this. Light Minefield is something dark. You might actually want this. Anbrew, I do not believe you want this, because whatever deck you're building, you want to swing out most, if not every single turn. And if you swing out most, if not every single turn, like Needletooth Raptor kills itself. Frill Death Spitter kills itself. Like all of your enrage triggers just get wasted because you have to start holding damage back, because otherwise you blow up your own enrage, guys. Yes, Nature Boy, we can then bring in things like Brash Taunter. Thoughts on Star of Extinction for this deck, especially if I'm giving things indestructible? Yes, I think you should have... Well, see, the thing is, this is really, really expensive. This is a lot to pay for a board wipe. We suggested like 4 different ways to give things indestructible, Eris. It's okay to have this. You should not rely on that. This is not your this is not your anchor. Star of Extinction is not your rock. In Brainchan, we are not doing dinos anymore. We are, but you also want Blasphemous Act. You also want Earthquake, because this will double as either this is 2 mana Ryle for everything on your board, or it is a board wipe. No. Commander. Bonfire of the Damned is another. You either pay a bunch of mana into this and you get a selective board wipe on one player, or for 3 mana, you trigger every enraged creature you own. Oh my god, your deserts are about to become playable. Holy shit, dude. Holy shit, where are these lands? Never mind, you no longer cut these. The secret tech. The most secret tech. Delete as well. Exocrine as well. I'm not super familiar with the minutia. Why are deserts unplayable? So it's not that they're unplayable. It is that when you have 3 different colors that you are trying to fix, typically, if you are getting your colors fixed, you are giving up speed for it. So like Jungle Shrine, it enters tapped, but because it enters tapped, you can get any of the 3 different colors that you need out of it. Having to waste a turn before you can use the mana will enormously slow a deck down. And the speed of your deck is very important to you being able to keep up with other people's felonies. So this is both tapped and it does not provide you access to the colors you need. The only benefit of these decks is that they are a desert and you can cycle them, but cycling them even feels pretty bad. Right, and as Squishy's saying, that's why the duels and the fetches are so bad. But if you look at like... Fucking woof. So even things like Sheltered Thicket are much better for multiple reasons. One, if they have a basic land type on them, they become searchable by things like Nature's Lore. So that makes it easier for you to fix your colors. It makes them more searchable. And even though they enter tapped, they're going to at least fix 2 colors rather than just 1. Sunbaked Canyon, also more playable because it's going to get us up to 2 colors. This is less important if you're just playing a 2-color deck. If you are playing a deck that only has 2 colors in it, then it's like, who fucking cares? But if we have 3 different colors of mana we need to produce, we actually have to spend a lot of attention on making sure we can produce those 3 colors in a reasonable time frame. So as we rebuild, I would replace a lot of these, like the dual shots, the Geist Flames, even the like Rain of Embers. I think the X ones are just better. Even though they're typically a little bit more expensive, I think the X ones are better for multiple reasons. And hear me out. As we include more enrage things, or if we include things like Vigor, there are other enrage triggers or pseudo enrage triggers you want to have that are going to care about the amount of damage that you deal. If we start messing around with making our creatures indestructible as well, we want to be able to spend a lot of mana in the late game to board wipe our opponents without board wiping ourselves. And so if we have cards that care about being dealt a lot of damage to get us value, or if we have like Avacyn on the field, we want to be able to go, okay, it's turn 10, I have $1 million, cataclysmic prospecting, X equals 9, all of your creatures die, I get 9 counters, I kill you. Versus needing to spend 2 mana to do it with Rain of Embers, where if we just want it to be 1, we can just spend the 3 on cataclysmic prospecting, and the enrage value probably makes up for the fact that we had to spend 1 more mana on it. Reckless Rage is a little bit better out of these because it's at least a little bit asymmetric in how bad you fuck up an opponent versus how bad you get fucked up. And let me see what other enrage creatures I think you are sleeping on to tie this in a little bow. This guy for sure. Wait, why does enrage suck? Holy shit. We are 100% missing this guy. Just a 7/7. Damien, my girlfriend has gotten all of them. Okay. That's a little bit better. Oh yeah, and then we can have the Boros Reckoners of the world, the Broodhatch Nantukos of the world. The Coal Hauler Swines of the world if we just want the game to be over. You could do fucking Flump, dog. This could be our card draw. We could even do Fungusaur. Oh, Jesus God. You could do Phyrexian Vindicator if you just wanted to instantly go to hell. Then we have bad Polyraptor. You could even go into like token generation or Spite Mare. Like there is enough stuff in here that you could get 25 to 30 enrage triggers that you care about and then fill it out with Stompy support. Oh my God, you could venture into the fucking dragon, dog, with a 7-3. But the core thing to understand about all of these cards is they are both very cool and they are very bad. If we want to build a deck around these, we should let that deck be bad. It's not important. It is there, like, it is not impressive to have a good Magic deck. And yeah, part of your problem is just you're new to the game. You didn't know that they printed half of the cards with enrage effects without putting the word enrage on them. That's not on you. That's on the good people at Wizards of the Coast who hate you. But like, even if you did know about these, I think that initial Pentlaza recommendation was well-intentioned but misguided, because everything that Pentlaza does is much better than what enrage creatures do. There is a whole different Stompy Dino deck where all you care about is my power toughness greater than my mana cost? And you just value out dinosaurs and you do like flicker shenanigans and you have a good time. But the enrage deck, I would highly recommend Weta, Marisi, or Aragorn, and you do all of these guys are going to crash out and I'm going to get stuff. I'm going to treat you like a piñata, and I'm going to beat value out of you, and beat value out of my own guys, and it's going to be funny. And then, as I said, I would highly recommend being mostly on X spells that let you hit every creature. It is O-Tag Enrage, Dark. There it is at the top of the screen. O-Tag Spite damage might help too. Not a thing. Maybe it needs a hyphen. Okay. No, I think these are broadly some of the worst enrage effects in the game. Yeah, Andrew, I would recommend splitting the deck in two. Because for Pentlaza, there is a whole new world. Like, if we just go, what's Naya? Toughness, greater than or equal to 5. Mana value, less than or equal to 5. Dinosaur. There probably won't be a million of these, but these are like the big movers for a Pentlaza deck. 30. You have a ton. So Aganosaur Rex is the best one. Play fucking Gigantosaurus, dog. 5 mana, discover 10. Go off. Four mana, discover 7. Get crazy, dude. Oh, this can't be real. Never mind. This can't be real. Hold on. Pangosaur. That's a lizard, actually. Is this retcon to dinosaur? It is. Dog, hear me out. Hear me out. 4 mana, discover 6 every turn. Because you keep bouncing it to hand. Like, this is the Pantlaza shit. Three mana, discover 6. That's the type of shit I'm talking about. That's the type of shit we need to be on. 5 mana, discover 7. And then you just put in, and that's where you put in all of your like Atali stuff, and you're just like, how many different dinosaurs can I put in the deck that will allow me to discover into Atali before I should legally be able to? And then you just go crazy that way. So I would very much recommend, you have 2 decks in 1 trench coat right now. Rip the trench coat off. Stand there, proud of your fucked up evil body, and then split yourself into 2 and get yourself a hyper casual Marisi enrage deck, and get yourself a very, very targeted and fraudulent Pantlaza deck. What about things like Palisade Giant? This is terrible both ways. I mean, would. But this non-bows the enrage strategy, and Pantlaza only cares about dinosaurs ETBing. So right now, Andrew, I'm going to put you up here. You just didn't know better. You wanted to do a cute thing, and your friend tried to trick you into doing a fucked up and evil thing, and tried to trick you into being the scapegoat for the table, no matter how well-intentioned they are. So I would very much recommend powering up the Pantlaza deck by focusing all in on Stompy Tax Fraud, and then I would take your silly, cute Enrage deck and make it a crash out experience with Marisi, or with Aragorn, or with Weta, but any of those are fine. And so Drivetrain, even though you did make it to today's stream, I think we are going to have to hold to the reschedule we talked about earlier, because I am going to begin slurring my words in just a few moments. So we are going to find somebody to raid, and then I am going to lay in bed for the rest of the day. So the thing is, Enchilada, I would not... okay, before we end, Andrew, I'm going to show you a card. I need you to not play it for like a month. I need you to not play this card until you've built these other 2 decks. This man is the pinnacle of enraged triggers. However, if you build an Indoraptor deck, that is not an enrage deck. That is a deck where you are damaging Indoraptor and Indoraptor alone, and then your friends and family are all dying instantly in a dinosaur-related accident. So please do not build this, and this will be the Pantlaza effect all over again. If you build this man going, oh, this would be a cute enrage commander because it says enrage on it, what will happen instantly, your friends will pull guns on you and fill you with holes, because Indoraptor is extremely, extremely powerful. It is also extremely, extremely fun, but it is just, I make Indoraptor a bomb, I cast Ryle on Indoraptor, Clark dies. But Andrew, thank you for the submission. I hope this was helpful, or at least entertaining. We are going to find a friend to raid, and that's going to be it for today. I know we got a custom card redeem. I will be refunding that, and we can do it on Monday or the next time we vamp. Is Amazonian live? We don't have anybody else I know live. Amazonian is live. We will raid Amazonian. Go ahead and hit them. With the indestructible Justin raid command, my friend. You can pull that up with exclamation point Voltron. Next Darkest Dungeon stream should be the back half of Monday's stream, Starry-Eyed Nightwing. We're not going to be live tomorrow. We had to do some reschedules there. I would like to apologize to the 4 roasties who had to get moved. I'm very sorry about that. They're not actually live. Okay. Then we'll do somebody else. Oh, it's a replay. Oh, yeah, never mind. We're not rating the replay channel. Okay, let me look. If anybody has suggestions, I am open to them. I don't know who Ross Merriam is, but potentially. Back on my prowess bullshit? Hell yeah. Still hit them with the indestructible Justin command. Thank you for the suggestion. Thank you all for coming to the stream. And thank you to today's roasties and everybody who has supported the content, either through views, subs, bits, follows, what have you. I appreciate every last bit of it. I will see you all Monday. And please remember to stay toxic.